For those who need comment cards, the clerk has some additional. February 11, 2020, of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee to order at 6:10 p.m. May we please stand for the invocation given by Vice Mayor Mervin, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father God, in the name of Jesus, oh God, we come and say thank you. Thank you for this day, God, that you have made and allowed us to be a part of. As we come together today, God, to conduct the business of the city, we ask you for your guidance, oh God. We ask you, God, to touch our hearts and our minds, oh God, that we can reason together. Bless us, I pray, in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Bath,
Present.
Commissioner Bolden,
Present.
Commissioner Everett, Commissioner Hill,
Present.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Present.
City Manager,
Present.
City Attorney,
Here.
Noemi Polanco, present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, staff. Thank you, commissioners, and thank each of y'all for being here tonight to participate in our workshop of Tuesday, February 11, 2020. This workshop of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee is being held to discuss the February 11, 2020 agenda. At this time, I turn this portion over to our city manager to lead us in the discussion of agenda items.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission, residents, visitors. Thanks for coming out tonight. Mayor, Commission, we have on the agenda tonight Resolution 2020-04 involving our solid waste trash, bulk, and recycling pickup. This has been a, interesting challenge. Not interesting, but it's been inundating with trying to ensure that we cover all our bases when it comes to these types of contracts. So I think this would be most likely the bulk of our conversation tonight, is settling in on what we want for this service. And so I'll go over some of the changes. We got some changes this afternoon that we will have to discuss for this contract, and then it would be, to the pleasure of the commission of what you want to do with those recommendations for a contract. Outside of that, Mayor, I think that we will have a lengthy discussion on it to ensure that we're moving in the right direction for that contract. If there are any questions at this time, we can maybe I need to, City Attorney, talk about maybe those recent changes that just came in this evening. Okay. If that's okay with them, because I have nothing else to really talk about but this contract.
Some additional changes came.
Yeah. Remember, this is just a draft. This is a proposal for an agreement, but the potential vendor went back and did some additional research, and he offered some additional changes to what we had already put together. So we can discuss those in workshop and then take it on into the regular meeting. You want me to start with those?
Yeah, we can start with those. Are you asking us to approve this tonight?
Well, you got the March 1st, it's February 11th, so at the last meeting.
The reason I'm asking, because we got
Depends
some
on-
additional changes that we haven't looked
Yeah.
at, and I haven't saw, so.
Well, no, that's what, it's about 4 of them, 4 or 5 items, yeah. So we are, how far you get tonight depends on whether you approve it to move forward. Any changes you make, I'm sure the city attorney will go back and make those changes, and then you'll have a, good contract. So if we get through it tonight, yeah, you can approve it. If we have to go back and clean the document up and give you a clean document, we'll do that as well. But yes, the plans were to approve it tonight because we've been into this, going into 60 days now. We know that March 2nd, we need a new vendor in place. So it's good that we had to extend the time to get through this and get someone in place. So, okay? You want to start? Okay. So this agreement pretty much mirrors the last agreement that you had in place for, let me give some history. Let me start back. In 2013, 2014, you contracted with Solid Waste Services at the time, and they were doing your service pickup for your trash, your bulk, and your recycling. And then subsequently after that, Waste Management purchased their contract. And they didn't change anything. They purchased it, and they kept that contract for the remaining 4.5 some years, from 2015 till now. And then, of course, we went back out for a request for a response, and Waste Management, they didn't bid the budget amount. They actually bid it almost about $870,000, and we know that's way beyond our budget. And some of the other responders, realizing the budget limits we had, just didn't respond. On the second response, the same conversation came about as what was your budget, and they didn't feel that $400,000+ was worth the effort to come to the Glades. Even if you compare South Bay and City of Pahokee, South Bay, of course, it's a smaller city, smaller population. Their contract, I believe, when I spoke with the manager today, it's about $420, and they're a much smaller city. We're double their size. And so that kind of validates why when Waste Management bid last year, they bid at $800,000. And even with the response we received, it was much higher than what you're looking at here. I worked to get that price down to an agreeable amount for our budget at that time. The original amount was much higher than that. It was closer to maybe more like $670,000 that this responder provided, and that was a no-go from the beginning. So we were able to get it down to a comfortable amount within the $400,000+ range, and that's where we are tonight, at least until this afternoon. So just want to give you a little history about the Waste Management Agreement over the last 6 years or so. And again, we didn't go back and rewrite a brand new contract. The guts of this agreement is pretty much the same outside of the changes in cost, and 1 or 2 other items that we made changes to. So if you would put the old agreement beside this agreement, it pretty much mirrors the agreement you have now in language, except the cost. So in saying that, we can start with the cost first, or I can start with some of these smaller items that came in today that he felt wasn't amendable.
In the workshop, we got about 10 minutes. Let's go with the major item,
Okay.
costs and
Okay.
any major.
Our Exhibit A that you have, which is the yearly and monthly expense, we put that together, and up until today, we thought that this was an amendable amount for both parties. The proposal went back and ran the numbers, and just felt that it would be fiscally a challenge for his organization at that amount, and so he came back and offered different amounts for years 3, 4, and 5. And year 3, instead of $40,550 a month, he proposes $41,500 for year 3. $41,500 for year 3 would be $498,000 for the year. That's year 3. Again, that's $41,500 for year 3 on a monthly basis.
You're not Nyla Clark, but I assume you're Clark.
Okay, year 4 is 42,000 per month, and that is 504 for the year. $42,000 per month, and that brings it to 504 for the 4th year of the contract. Year 5, it was additional $300, $42,300. 12 months, that's 507, $507,600, 507,600, 507,600 is his 5th year. So those were the 3 years that the vendor made changes to based on his ability to do the service for the city of Pahokee for bulk trash, recycling, and normal residential commercial pickup. That was the change.
And what about years 6 and 7?
Never got to years 6 and 7. Commissioner Bowling, that may be something that we can discuss this evening. It could be where you might not do a 2-year extension. You may do 5 years and may want to do something different, but we never got to the 2-year extension conversation at all. We never offered any.
So if we approve those numbers, then 6 and 7, he's going to do it for less?
No, I doubt that very seriously. We just never got to that conversation for 6 and 7. Yeah, I doubt he's going backwards. Based on just the rate of trash pickup, it escalates, on a yearly basis. So we just never got to that point, 6 and 7. So I'm imagining that it'll be, a point percentage higher those last 2 years. If, of course, you decide you want a 2-year extension, and if it's approved, that's fine. You have an option there. Whatever those numbers will be, you have an option. But we never got to discuss 6 and 7.
But don't you think the numbers ought to be on here before we discuss them?
If you plan to do a 2-year extension, we can discuss that tonight. It was
Well,
just
then
left
why did you
open.
put them on here to begin with?
It was never discussed. This is what we had in place from
Right.
years 1 to year 7.
I understand.
And then later this afternoon, I got these new numbers, but nothing was ever offered for 6 and 7. So I never had time to even go look at 6
So
and 7.
then I would assume he's going to go back to 41,990 and 42,1 because he had this, didn't he?
No, he's not going to go backwards. No, he just never had a chance to discuss the 2-year extension, and he's welcome to do
Doesn't
that
make
tonight.
sense to me. If you had the time to adjust these 3, 4, and 5 years, and you looked at it and you saw that 6 and 7 would go back to
Correct.
the original numbers, why wouldn't you put a number in there?
Just wasn't discussed yet. He just didn't discuss it with me as of yet, so we can do that tonight. So we can do that. Again, these changes came in late this afternoon, and that's what he offered for years 3, 4, and 5, but certainly 6 and 7. If you want to include that continuously in the new agreement, you would have to address that tonight, yeah.
I don't intend on addressing any of this tonight.
Okay. So that was the cost for years 1 through 5. And that was his changes that he's offered for 3, 4, and 5. Then, on page 5, the vendor wanted, I'm searching for he wanted to maintain, he wanted to take ownership of the containers, if at termination. Those are the green containers at termination. Right now, it doesn't represent that on page 5. I'm looking for the paragraph.
Currently, who has ownership of the container?
Size container. Sir?
Currently, who has the ownership of the
Currently, these
container?
containers are waste management. They first wanted them back, seeing that their service would be ending in March, but then they changed their minds and said, well, we don't want the containers whatsoever, but I don't think it was theirs to begin with, based on, because they inherited this agreement. The large dumpsters, they want those back, but whoever the new vendor is, they're willing to either sell them to them, or rent them to the new hauler. So that would be a conversation that the new vendor would have to discuss with Waste Management for the 4-yarders and the 6-yarders dumpsters.
So that particular language then shouldn't be applicable.
It's in the last paragraph.
Where is it, Commissioner
Number
Bowman?
8.
That-
Number 8, it's the last paragraph of number 8.
I mean, since we don't own them.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
mean, I'm not sure why that part is in there. I can see his desire, the company desire to own them, but that would be a negotiation between him and Waste Management.
Well, no. I'm talking, the dumpsters, we don't own anymore. The dumpsters, the steel 4-yarder, 6-yarder, the roll-offs that's in front of your house, Waste Management didn't want to take those off the street. They thought it was just too cumbersome for them to come out and start taking those back off the street. So they just left those to the city for us to keep. And what he's saying is if the agreement is terminated, he would like to have ownership of those containers. So essentially, you own them now because Waste Management doesn't want them back. And what he's saying is, if the agreement is terminated, he wants them.
I think City Attorney wanted to chime in.
No, I was just making it clear he made the distinction between the two.
So that's page 5. Notate page 5. Page 4.
If we're on 5, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Okay, on the paragraph where it says, any dispute over the replacement of a container shall be resolved by the city manager.
Where's that at, Commissioner Bowling?
In the paragraph, second paragraph, last line,
Same page?
paragraph 8,
At the end
or
of the second paragraph. I'm sorry.
number 8.
Page number 5.
Typically, from what I understand in my experience the last 5 years, when a container gets broken, or there's a wheel missing, I can pick up the phone and call the hauler, he'll deliver another one. Now, the great thing is we have a supply of extra containers. Typically, I don't have to call them whatsoever to replace a container. If someone moves into the community and they need a container, they'll call Public Works, we'll deliver it. So typically, there's really no dispute over replacing our containers because they give us extra in our store, in our warehouse to keep. But typically, yeah, they call the city manager or they call the Public Works director to work out either we need replacements or we need new ones, et cetera.
Okay, so then does that mean he's going to give us all new ones, and then we're going to have extras sitting around, or we're going to use the ones we
We're gonna
have
use the
now?
ones we have now.
But it says it's going to, that these are going to have his name, and
He said he's
Telephone
gonna put
number
his
and all that.
logo on the side of the container.
so he's going to go out to every house and put a new logo on the side of the container.
From what I understand, yes.
Okay. And then on paragraph 9, where it says collection equipment, I don't see anything where it says they need to replace the equipment every 7 years. Wasn't that a
That was a sticking
part
point
of the
with, that was a sticking
waste
point with
management?
waste management. They didn't want that in there. They thought it was way too costly. So we got away from that. And this language here adequately helps us understand and the vendor understand that we need operable working equipment that is sufficient throughout the service of the agreement. So we got away from that actual putting years in there because we realized that a lot of the haulers just, that increased their costs significantly.
Was that in the RFP?
It was in the RFP.
So then the other people, did they know that they weren't going to have to replace their equipment every 7 months or every 7 years?
I mean, did they or did they not know?
Did they, or did they
No,
not
they
know?
knew. That's why, and that's one of the things they talked about when they came was that they didn't want, they felt the reason why their contract was so much higher.
No,
was
I'm not talking about waste management. I'm saying when we put the RFP back out
Oh,
on the
yes,
street,
everyone knew that. Yeah.
it didn't have that in it.
Huh?
It didn't have that in it,
Didn't have what in it?
that they needed to replace the
No, I
equipment
kept
every
that in
7
there
years.
because I still wanted it. I still wanted it. I still think that equipment should be replaced every 6 years, but I'm amendable now because I understand it's just too much of a
Don't
cost.
you think we might have gotten more applications if
No,
that
that's not
wasn't
what,
in there?
that's not what pushed, vendors away. What pushed vendors away was our budget. They want more money, period, and our budget is limited. And when they talk window time, driving from the coast out to the city of Pahokee, picking up trash, taking it back to Solid Waste Authority, dumping it, the gas, that wasn't one of the main reasons why they didn't want to respond. It was really, we have a limited budget. And they addressed that, and stated that on several occasions. Even Waste Management, when they bid $800,000, which they knew there was no way we were going to approve that budget, they were just fishing in the dark, thinking we would find money like that or have money like that. Admitted that because we're double the size of South Bay that I talked to you earlier, our actual hauling amount to be paid for trash really is about $600 to $700,000 for the size of our city. If you compare our city to one like South Bay who pays $425, we really should be paying more than what's represented here based on the size of our city.
Okay, our time has expired for our workshop. We're going to adjourn the workshop, and we'll just reconvene during our regular commission meeting and take on this contract discussion there. Adjourn this workshop. We'll reconvene in 3 minutes. Thank you. City Attorney, you ready?
Yes, sir.
City Clerk,
Yes, sir.
City Manager,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowling,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin.
Yes.
I call this city commission meeting of the City of Pahokee, regular commission meeting of Tuesday, February 11, 2020, to order at 6:43 p.m. May we please stand for the invocation provided by Reverend Smart, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the city of Pahokee. We ask you to be with us tonight as we discuss the business of Pahokee. Help us to know that in the midst of the storm, you are there to protect us. And let us trust and obey. We give you the thanks and the praise in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Bab,
Present.
Commissioner Bowling,
Here?
Commissioner Everett, Commissioner Hill,
Here.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Present.
City Manager,
Here.
City Attorney,
Here.
Noemi Polanco, here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, staff. And thank each of you all for being here tonight to participate in our regular City Commission meeting of Tuesday, February the 11th, 2020. I would like to acknowledge Dr. Robert Reese, Represented Pahokee. Also, we have with us Lisa Wilson, representing County Commissioner Melissa McKinley. And before we start, I just want to wish all the ladies and gentlemen a happy Thanksgiving. It's just happy Valentine's.
You did that on purpose. You did that on purpose. You knew you would do
Just for the record, the city didn't border the expense of any items in your little gift bags. That was voted by the mayor, and just an annual tradition I have started since I've been elected mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have a turkey in mind. No turkey, yeah, no.
All right, so we're going to continue with our meeting agenda. The first item on the agenda is the additions, deletions, and approval of the agenda items. What's your pleasure?
No, Mayor, no additions, deletions
okay.
to the agenda.
Hearing that we have no additional items on the agenda, what's your pleasure, City Commission? I entertain a motion for the adoption of the agenda as presented.
Mayor, I make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly seconded by Commissioner Hill for the adoption of the agenda as presented. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowling,
Yes?
Commissioner Everett, Commissioner,
Yeah.
Mayor Bab, excuse me.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion passes by unanimous vote. Now we'll move to citizen comments, public service announcement, all items on the agenda. And that may be a little confusing when I say that, all item on the agenda. That don't mean it has to be a agenda item. You can actually speak on any item that you wish, including making public service announcement. You must have a public service and a comment card completed. City Clerk, at this time, do we have any comment card completed?
Yes, sir.
You can call his name.
Sam McKinstry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I believe y'all know who I am. I'm Sam McKinstry. In some parts of town, I'm better known as Cracker Sam. All right, I'd like to read this from the Office of Inspector General into record this evening. This is from today, this afternoon. Finding 1, the allegation is sustained. Pahokee City Manager Chandler Williamson, parentheses, City Manager Williamson, close parentheses, improperly authorized the payment of $150,000 to Technomarine in violation of the FDEO grant agreement. The FDEO grant agreement required Pahokee to pay subcontractors on a cost reimbursement basis unless the Bureau of Auditing within the Florida Department of Financial Services Division of Accounting and Auditing provided advance payments and required the city to follow its own procurement policies when extending the grant funds. The city violated the grant agreement because 1, the city did not request permission to make advance payments to Technomarine. 2, the city paid Technomarine even though the city was on notice that the work outlined in Technomarine's pay application for $150,000 had not been completed. 3, the payment to Technomarine was not supported by the documentation submitted to the city with Technomarine's payment application, pay app. And 4, the city used grant funds to pay for services that were not competitively bid as required by city's procurement code. So, that being said, this evening as a resident of Pahokee, Florida, I would like to submit, I guess you would say, an advisement to the city council here that we need to call for the immediate termination of the city manager Chandler F. Williamson on the grounds of the new findings from the Office of Inspector General. What say you, Mayor?
No comments at this time. We will take up
What
that
say you,
report.
Ms. Mervin? I still got a minute 7. What say you, ma'am? Ms. Bolden, how do you feel about it? Care to make a comment? How about you, Ms. Hill? How about you, attorney? Anybody? Anybody up here? We've got 53 seconds left. Let her rip. Nobody has anything to say about this. Do you understand that you gave the man a $9,000 a year raise, all but Miss Bolden, knowing that this was on the books? You know ahead of time. You all did. And you can't lie about it because we already know you knew. And you voted to give the man a $9,000 a year raise. That's all I got.
City Clerk, are there any additional comments, cards?
Yes, sir. I have Mark Miller with a general concern comment.
Yes, I'd like to give my 3 minutes to Bobby Colvin. Thank you.
Okay. Sharon Colvin. Oh,
Tell me that. So Bobby's got 9 minutes.
I didn't
Mr.
realize.
Mr. Mayor.
Bobby Colvin, 3096
I'm sorry.
Point Road.
I don't.
City Attorney.
Just for the record, you all don't have a procedure for giving minutes to anyone. If you choose to do that, I suppose you can, but that's not a part of the rules that you've adopted to give minutes to others.
All right, Mayor.
We'll stand at this time till we come up with a procedure, an additional 2 minutes to your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. I really wasn't going to comment on anything tonight because I've sent a couple of letters in the past several weeks. And I was going to wait and see if there was any comment on my letters. And if not, then next week I was going to send another letter. But since I'm up here, after the Hurricane Wilma came through in 2005, I mentioned to the mayor that we went up on the dike and there were huge craters down by the airport up on the dike. Some of you probably saw those craters. But not only craters, but there were huge boulders that had started at the base of the dike, and with the terrible hurricane force of the winds, the storm surge had literally pushed those boulders way up the dike. I was amazed that it could possibly be so strong. And that's one of the reasons I've been speaking out about fortifying our new marina deck. Because if we ever had a hurricane to come across the lake with huge winds, and that deck is sitting there with only timbers that go into the ground about 3 feet, and the ground gets wet, I have no doubt that the deck could literally be wrapped around the side of the marina. And what I'd really love to see you do is have an engineer look at this and see if there's any way that that deck could be secured to the rock down below the muck. Because usually when a hurricane comes through, if you watch the videos of storms, when a whole roof gets blown away, almost every time, if you look right before the roof goes, one corner or one side tears loose, and then suddenly the whole thing's gone. If the deck were secured to the rock down below, particularly on the front edge, it might be enough to hold it in case we ever get a storm surge like we did from Hurricane Wilma. And I would just urge the city, and also if the state's watching, send somebody to give some kind of evaluation of the security of this deck, because if something happened to the deck, not only would the deck have to be replaced, but there's a great chance that it may do major damage to the restaurant itself. And I'd hate, once this thing gets open, for it to be damaged again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say this, Mr. Colvin, that the deck was certified by a certified engineer. And if a city manager just can speak on that just for a moment, to kind of give some highlight. I know originally there was an engineer design, and we went to a second design by an engineer that was certified. And those improvements have to be inspected, and someone has to sign off on them. So that have occurred, but I do understand your concern. If you would, Mr. City Manager, not taking up too much time, but just kind of highlight where we are on the deck and was it certified and who was the engineer, if you don't mind sharing that.
Thank you, Mayor. In about 5 minutes, I'll see if I can wrap this up. When we decided to complete the installations at the marina, which was in a deck, one of the first things that we did was hire a company to do the soil sampling. It's called geotechnical soil sampling. We contracted with an organization that came out and did those soil samplings with recommendations through Sea Diversified, who actually helped design that marina originally. From those samples and findings, those findings were provided to the engineer. The engineer then went back and helped the contractor design a reputable design that could sustain being drilled into the ground and developed and constructed. You had 2 sets of engineers that worked on that project. You have an engineer and a contractor that sign off on that development and on that construction at completion. And so I have to rely on their expertise, because I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect, I don't know anything about boring the samples. They are the experts in these fields, in this industry, when it comes to decks design. And so I'm welcome to, if you stop by City Hall, I'll give you those samples, I'll give you the results. Welcome to provide you the engineer's name and contact so you can discuss further what your concern is. I'm welcome to provide you the contractor who actually built the deck as well, so you can get a better understanding of what they design out there on the marina concerning to this deck. Now, as far as maybe exploring some additional safety measures, Maybe that's something additional that they certainly can take a look at, if there's some type of funding available. We certainly want to do everything we possibly can to even shore up what was built out there, if it's a concern. But I'd have to have the engineers tell me that directly, that after they built this deck, signed off on it, that now there's an additional concern based on what they signed off on. So welcome to do that for you. If you want some additional information and peace of mind about what was designed out there. But we certainly can continue to ensure for the future that what was built out there remains in place. So thank you for your concern, and I can definitely provide you additional information outside of this meeting if you would like.
Thank you, City Manager. City Clerk, in addition, comments, cards.
Kareem Maureen.
Good evening, how y'all doing?
Good evening.
This
Good
is a
evening.
side note. All right, Ms. Williams, we got 37 other incompleted projects that people have been paid off on. How we know that that was done right? But that ain't got nothing to do with what I came for. Mr. Bell, how you doing this evening? My plan was to leave Pahokee, sell my house, and get up out of here. My daughter told me she wanted to stay and graduate. Okay? However, even though she's still staying here, she's like, if you decide to leave, what is there gonna be here for the other kids? What are we doing for these children? You know, we've had side conversations about this before. I need to know what we're doing for these kids. This is my home. Think back to the tower. Remember we had the tower at the top of the dike? All these people came in here with this controversy. I said it was good, it was wholesome. We had the Grassy Waters Festival. We had festivals on the 4th of July, actual full festivals, car shows, motorcycle shows. What are we doing for our kids, for our future? He need to do something if he gonna stay here. Somebody need to put a foot in his ass and make him do his job. I'm sorry, that's just the way it comes out. I'm tired. I'm at the point now where I'm not coming back and forth to these meetings like this. When y'all see my name, y'all see my name on paperwork coming from the courts. Now I have came to you guys, I begged and pleaded. We all have our own personal issues, but we gotta worry about our future. No gym, no dances. After the football game, people do try to go up time, chill out, but you got him locked in with the Palm Beach County Sheriff Department, where they go and disrupt everything. Nobody doing nothing, ain't nobody shooting, ain't nobody fighting. Everybody just chilling, wanna have a good time. Because there is nothing here. That's all these people got. That's all, I don't go up there. But when I do, I don't wanna be harassed by the Sheriff's Department, because I fought for this country. And I hold that dear to my heart. This is my home, Pahokee, Florida. I don't wanna leave. I need y'all to do something, or I will move forward with the paperwork and my attorneys. Please, Mr. Babb, it's live, everybody's here, I'm tired of talking.
Thank you.
Annie Eiffel.
Good evening. My name is Annie Eiffel. I'm the project director for Healthier Glades. My office is located at 491 East Main Street at the United Methodist Church. I'm here to give you some public announcements of some things that are coming on, that are going to be happening in the community. The first thing I want to talk about is the Let's Move campaign. Healthier Glades is funded through Palm Health Foundation, in which Palm Health invested $1 million for the next 5 years to address issues around improving health outcomes. And the Glades residents chose to work on behavioral health. So with Healthier Glades, what we're doing is we're trying to work with our residents to utilize their strengths on what things that they are currently doing in the community and how we can support. With that being said, one of the things that we're working on is one of our campaigns is the Let's Move campaign, and that's going to be held during the month of March. And we're asking for residents and to sign up to be part of the team to try to document how much activity that you're doing. That could be walking, running, dancing, bicycling, whatever. So what we want to do is just show the county that we're doing things to try to improve our health through physical fitness. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. What I'll do is I'll forward the information to the city manager and he can share that with you guys. The second thing I wanted to talk about is, you may have seen it in the mail, the Push Out documentary. Healthier Glades is in partnership with the Criminal Justice Commission. Last year, we brought Broken Places documentary that talked about the resiliency of members, of family members going through difficult times and how they overcame. This year, the Push Out documentary is going to be focusing on the criminalization of Black girls in education. So it's going to be held at the Belglade Library Civic Center, and we're encouraging all residents to come out to be part of the watching the documentary and panel discussion, and that's going to be at 11 o'clock at the Belglade Civic Center.
What day?
February 22nd, my apologies, February 22nd at 11 o'clock. February 22nd is a lot of things going on. Fun Day in the Glades, Glades Family Fun Day is also going to be at Butts Park at I think it's at 1 o'clock, 1 to 4 o'clock at Butts Park. And then and then you have Bay Fest in South Bay that's going to be taking place as well. So there's a lot of things going on February 22nd, but I just wanted to invite you to come out to the documentary. We're going to have a good panel discussion on what we can do to support girls of color. And then the last thing I want to talk about is that time of the year again for the Senior Citizens Prom. And I'm seeing a lot of the residents that came out last year to the prom. It was held at Lakeshore Civic Center. Regina Bowling came, and she made a statement that she wants to see it in Pahokee. So I'm bringing it to Pahokee. We had our committee meeting, and so, I'm sorry, my time is up. Okay. We had our committee meeting, so we'll have our next one probably in about another 2 weeks, but we just need to know if you have the space and the capacity for us to have it here in Pahokee. We would love to have it in Pahokee. And that concludes my time. Thank you.
What was the date?
And that's going to be the last Saturday in June. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but it's the last Saturday in June. And it was around that time last year.
27?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever that last Saturday is. Okay.
27.
And if you go to our Healthier Glades Facebook page, you'll see a whole bunch of information about different events that are going on in the community. And when I talk about the Glades, I'm talking about Belglade, South Bay, Pahokee, and unincorporated areas as well.
If I can ask her a question, Mr. Mayor? How big a facility do we need, and when do you need to know by?
I think last year we had about almost close to 200 people that were in attendance last year, and they had a wonderful time. So whatever that can accommodate that size, that's what we would need. And then if we can, because right now we're in February, at least by the end of March.
Okay, Mayor, can I ask a question? Can I get your contact before you leave?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joanne Culverson.
Joanne Culverson, 1621 East Main Street. I'm not going to get any answers, so I'm just going to tell you a list of my concerns. One thing, the contract was signed with the state on December the 3rd. What's happening with the marina? Are we getting anywhere with it? I mean, we're in February now. Another thing is, who is the owner of Big Dog? Is that Perez? Did we not fire the attorney for using Perez on a thing that I have nothing against Perez, but I just can't understand how we fired the attorney because Perez was doing free work to make something out of the hospital. And now we are going to hire Perez. And like I said, him and Sarah have done a lot for this community. I just think the way all this has come about doesn't make any sense. The other thing is the live video. Why isn't it done like it was before when it was recorded the night of? We're 3 days getting it. Also, when is the website getting up? The other thing, the dike, the public area. Y'all said 2 weeks in the public area was, we have all kind of construction been on that dike, and the public area had never been locked off to people. Why is that still not up? I do know, like he said, there was a lot of talk about that piling when we were putting in that deck. And I do know when we had that hurricane, I had a boat in my backyard. Donnie Martin had one of those storage units in the back. Those things came across the dike into people's yards, and that's a very serious thing. I don't like that the comment has to be at the front. I like to listen to y'all, and then I've made my mind up on what I want to say. Now you want me to say it all now, and I don't get to say anything on what you said. I came from Belglade, taking my 99-year-old mother over there so I could come because I've not been able to come to the meetings. When I came through Belglade, there's lights, there's cars, there's businesses, there's all kinds of stuff. You get down here and there ain't nothing. And what do we have? I do agree. Why would we give somebody a raise that took $150,000 out? I just don't understand a lot.
Catherine Marvis.
Catherine Marvez, 1838 East Main Street, Pahokee, Florida. What I was going to say was something about fixing up things, but since I've had a chance to get to page 20 of this document, just briefly reviewing it, I want to bring up a point again that I made a couple of years ago when I first moved here. The city manager reports to the commissioners. The commissioners make decisions on policies, contracts, and everything else that happens with the city. Your committees report to the commissioners on what should be done in the city or what the majority of people want for the city. In my opinion, I'm looking at things here where the project manager was not consulted by the city manager. Well, the city manager is the project manager because the commission allowed that. The commission has thrown away every opportunity they have to represent this city by silencing yourselves and the city and the citizens. It's very clear to everyone, and I'm not sure why it's not clear to you. Every recommendation in here that I've gotten to, the city agrees and they will do better. No, 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 no. You know what? The city manager can walk away today, and you know who all this stands on? Every one of you commissioners. You are responsible, not the city manager, just because the city manager, regardless of Chandler or whoever it is, told you, oh, this is a good idea. Oh, let's do it this way. This is going to work. This is best. I remember Clara Mervin telling me, getting upset, saying that we know what's best for the city. We don't need to hear from the citizens. Well, I'm sorry, but you don't, and it's on tape. I'll go find it if you don't recall. But you don't know what's best for the citizens, because if you did, we would not be sitting in this mess that we're sitting in today. And I'm just going to tell you, get over it. Get over the micromanagement. Get over the fact that you think you know what the citizens want, because I'm here to tell you, everyone that I talk to They are not your friends. They may go to church with you. They may say, oh, how are you doing today? But the words and the language that they use about you at the gas station, at the Save-A-Lot, would probably stun you. So come on, let's get back to reality here. We've got nothing done. I've been here 3 years. There should have been a hell of a lot more done here, and everything that's been done has been to silence everybody's here. I don't care if they're white, black, or whatever. It's been to silence citizens. And this whole chaos started when you had an IG report in your hands and you refused to allow Brandenburg to present it. And if you recall how that went down, review the tapes. That's where this started. So once again, I'll leave you. This is not the city manager doing this. City manager is getting away with what he can. This is your giving up responsibility and authority.
Time is up. Thank you for the comments. City Clerk, are there any additional comments, cards?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll now move to the approval of the minutes. As the city attorney advised at our last commission meeting, we're going to take each of our minutes individually and have them approved. First one is December the 10th, 2019 workshop minutes.
Mayor Bab, I make a motion to accept December 10, 2019 workshop minutes.
Looking for a second.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly seconded by Commissioner Hill for the adoption of the December the 10th, 2019 workshop meeting. Call for question.
I have one. Okay, so at the last meeting, we talked about this approval to extend the contract for 30 days with Waste Management up until January 31st, 2020, all of that. So we're leaving this the way it is. Is that correct? Because the city manager said that that was wrong and that's why we didn't approve them last time. So if I understand, that's how it's going to read, that's how it is.
We could make a motion to adjust the language to make sure it's clear that we did actually authorize the extension of the contract to the end of March.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. I went back and looked at my notes after the meeting, and it was January 31st, and Eileen was right. We did not extend it. That's why I want to make sure that what we've got here is what we're going with.
Mayor, I think it was scheduled the 30 day, but it was talked about 60 days. If you notice, that's why solid waste is, well, not solid waste, waste management, well, they're still picking up the trash now. So if it had not been, they would have ended their contract as of January 31st.
Unless the city manager went ahead and negotiated for another 60 days without our authorization.
That didn't happen.
That was done in the meeting. It was done when the young lady was here, and it was discussed on 60 days. Because I think even the mayor said, well, I think 30 days would not be enough to get the new company up and running. So whether she wrote it, I know it was discussed of 60 days.
So I would recommend that we move forward with a motion just to officially have on record that we are authorizing extension to March 31st.
Well, we
It's March-
can't
actually,
just
the
change.
Actually, the MOU was to March 1st, and that's what they
March 1st.
provided to the city for the
City
extension.
attorney, can we just change minutes when they're,
No, I'm not
They
talking
were
about
what they
changing
were.
that minute. I was just reflecting at this particular meeting, we're just ratifying what our original intent was to have the contract extended to March 1st. I'm not saying we need to change that. If that's the way it was recorded and said, then I'm not saying change that. We're on this particular minutes. We can go ahead and approve that because if we do feel that will actually say it, then it should be approved. But in addition to that, I could look forward to have someone make a motion to just
amend it.
officially amend that particular motion to say that we're extending it to March 1st.
okay, well, the reason I brought it up is on the next set of minutes, it says that I made an approval to place the December 10th regularly scheduled commission meetings on the next agenda after corrections are made. And that was not the motion that I made. The motion that I made was that it was correct, and unless somebody could prove that it was not correct, then it should have been tabled until we could prove it one way or the other. So this is not correct either.
Okay. Acting Clerk, do you hear Commissioner Boland comments? We're requesting a correction to her motion or her statement that she made. And if you would, Commissioner Boland, repeat that so the clerk can have
It's
proper
in-
minutes.
Well, it's in the next one, and we haven't gotten to it yet, but that's what caught my eye. It was the January 28th meeting.
Okay, you can hold that then maybe till the January 28th minutes comes up and then make that particular correction. But right now, we have a motion on the floor to approve the December 10th, 2019 minutes, workshop minutes. In additional questions to that? Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Boland,
Yes?
Commissioner Everett. No. Commissioner Hill, I'm sorry. Mayor Bab,
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. The December 10th, 2019 workshop minutes passed by unanimous vote. Now we'll move to the December 10th, 2019 regular scheduled commission meeting minutes. I entertain a motion.
Mayor Bear, I make a motion to accept December 10th workshop scheduled commission meeting minutes.
Looking for a second, Commissioners.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Hill that we approve the December 10th, 2018 regular scheduled commission meeting minutes. Call for questions.
Okay, so now, okay, I'd like to say that this is not correct, where it says approval to place the regular scheduled minutes on the next agenda after the corrections are made. That's not what I said.
We have a correction requested by Commissioner Boland to correct that particular statement. City Clerk, you have an understanding of her actual statement now, so it can be corrected.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
So what's the correction?
Could you state the
Which one-
correction of
would
what
you,
did you state at that last minute?
That it should only, if there was a way to prove that that's not what we said, then it should be changed, but if not, it should stay the same as what I said.
Okay. So Commissioner Vice Mayor Mervin, could you amend your motion to include approval with the added correction of Commissioner Boland?
Mayor Bear, I make a motion to accept December 10th, 2019 regular scheduled commission meeting minutes with the correction from Commissioner Bolden.
Second. Oh, no, she didn't.
It has been moved and amended by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Hill that we approve the December 10th, 2019 minutes with the correction of the statement of Commissioner Bolden. Call for question. Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Boland,
Yes?
Commissioner Everett, Mayor Bab.
Yes, thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion passed by unanimous vote. Now we entertain our January 28th, 2020 workshop minutes.
Mayor Bear, I make a motion to accept January 28th workshop minutes.
Looking for a second.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Hill for the adoption of the January 28th, 2020 workshop minutes. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Boland,
Yes.
Commissioner Everett, Mayor Bab.
Yes, thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioner. Minutes passed by a unanimous vote. Now we'll move to our January 28th, 2020 regular schedule commission meeting minutes.
Mayor Bab, make a motion to accept January 28th regular scheduled commission meeting minutes.
I'll second.
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Hill that we approve the January 28th, 2020 regular scheduled commission meetings. Call for question. Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Boland,
Yes.
Commissioner Everett, Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion passed by unanimous vote. We don't have any consent agenda items. We don't have any ordinance. We do have a resolution, Resolution 2020-04, City Attorney.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida, approving an agreement between Big Dog Express of South Florida, Inc. and the City of Pahokee for solid waste and recycling collection services, providing for adoption of representations, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. City Manager, could you give a little background on this resolution?
Mayor, this is a resolution for solid waste recycling collection services, as indicated by the city attorney. In the workshop, as you are aware, in the commission, we are discussing this current proposal for an agreement for waste services beginning March 1st, 2020, with Big Dog Express. And so I'm imagining that's where we are right now as far as looking at this agreement. Carry on from the workshop.
City Commission, we will have an opportunity to discuss this when we call for questions, so we can continue the discussion of this particular contract, so we can pass or reject the resolution as put before us. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Bab, I make a motion that we accept the agreement for the
Resolution.
solid waste collection and recycling service with Big Dog.
Correction, Mayor, resolution.
I'm sorry, resolution, I'm sorry.
Just state the resolution to Vice Mayor.
Put my paper away. Hold on. Resolution 2020-04.
Thank you.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Hill for the adoption of Resolution 2020-04. Call for questions.
I have some. I'd like to know what else was changed on this contract that we received. I don't know about anybody else, but I got it at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
The changes.
You want
Other than the
to start that?
numbers.
You want to wait till we get to the contract discussion?
Let's start with the,
Oh, I thought we
the
had someone, I
changes
thought we had a
first.
resolution on the floor. I thought we had.
We do have a resolution, but it's in pertaining to
Right,
the contract.
right. I didn't know if you wanted to pass that and then go to the agreement
Can't pass
first.
a resolution if you don't know what you're passing. The contract is the resolution, correct?
What's your question? What's the question, Commissioner Bowman?
You say you
What
have received,
are the changes that were made
Page-
since I got this contract at 3 o'clock this afternoon?
Outside of what we discussed in the workshop,
Yes.
I went over the costs, the year 3, 4, 5. Page 4 was about the containers. Page 15 is performance bond. You wanted some changes to that. That's page 15.
What's the change?
Let me get that page. So the performance payment and other bonds, number 27, within 5 days of the award by the City Commission, contractor shall furnish performance and payment bonds, each in amount at least equal to 1/2 of the contract, priced as security for the faithful performance and payment of all contractors' obligations under the contract documents. These bonds shall remain in effect at least 1 year as the date when the final payment becomes due, except as provided otherwise by laws and regulations or by contract documents. Contractor shall furnish such bonds as required by the contract documents. What the proposer is recommending, he wanted changes to that to represent a lesser amount in a performance bond of, and maybe he can explain it better. I don't know if we want him up here to explain that now. Maybe he could explain that part to the commission more clearly, but he wanted a performance bond less than what was being offered in this language of equal to 1/2 of the contract.
Mayor, can
And
we
he
ask
either
him-
wanted a he wanted either a $30,000 performance bond or a $30,000 upfront cashier's check for the performance bond coverage for services. I think I said that right. That was a recommendation.
We can have him come up, but why he coming up, if the city attorney, is it customarily allowable for to have a performance bond that is quite less than the actual overall contract?
Not for a contract like this. This contract has already been negotiated quite a bit just for this paragraph. And let me be clear, most of the contract is pretty much the same. Like just about everything. I think there may be a few changes here and there, but this is one of the significant changes because on this paragraph in the initial contract that you had with the other provider, it was for a security performance and payment bonds in the amount of at least equal to the contract price as security for the performance. In this one, it says 1/2 of that. So because the vendor had some concerns, the manager made some concessions and made a significant reduction. Now, I guess the vendor is saying, you know, we want even less, a lesser amount than that. So for a contract like this, even the 1/2 would be unusual. I understand the city is in a position where it's looking to, you know, have these services performed, and there may be some other things that you may, we could possibly look at to ensure that if there is liability, there will be, you know, some funds there that don't come from the city. But this is a significant issue, so it's something you all, you know, need to pay attention to, and maybe there are some things that you can negotiate. I know the contractor, for instance, is looking for the containers to be given to him, or the company, I should say. So maybe that could be an area of negotiation. So these are things that, you know, we didn't know. I guess I didn't know them until I came here tonight. So I guess there are issues that just came up. We thought that the contract was fine.
So page 4, the containers, the performance bond on page 15. Page 16 is number 28, where it says, shall maintain a $5 million umbrella. Currently, the vendor has a $2 million umbrella, so he thought that should be reduced because he already has a $2 million umbrella. And I think I said that right. And then commercial liability, I think he has $1 million already. So he thought the $5 million umbrella that was too high, but he does already have a $2 million umbrella. So he thought that $5 million was high. That's page 16, item number 28. And page 19, item number 38, under termination. Item number 38. Everybody there? Okay. On item number 38, not the first paragraph, I'm gonna read the second paragraph. Contractor's overall performance shall be reviewed by city on an annual basis. Contractors shall be allowed to participate in and respond if necessary during review. This agreement may be terminated by the city and contractors at the contractor's annual review if city determines that the contractor's performance has been unacceptable, that such performance has been documented by the city, and that termination is in the best interest of the city. Any such termination shall be delivered in writing to contractor at least 30 working days before the effective date of the termination. Now, the vendor feels that that portion duplicates what is being said on page 12. Let's go back to page 12. Page 12. First, second, and third offense should be at the top of the page. And this is under quality and performance of contractor. The vendor feels that this,
What
item
paragraph
19,
is-
sorry, item 19.
Excuse me, wait, what paragraph is that?
Which one, the first one I read?
No, the one on page 12, you're saying.
Page 11, I'm sorry, item 19. Number 19, sorry. Number 19. You there? Okay, number 19, under the quality and performance of contractor, it stipulates the contractor agrees to the following performance expectations. And then on the next page, it says for first offense, second offense, third offense, which is termination of this agreement, and so on thereafter. He feels that item number 19 very well simulates what's being said in item number 38, second paragraph.
So why would it be an objection if it's saying the same thing? I mean, if it's contradicting each other,
Yeah.
I can see that, but I don't see that being an issue if it's basically saying the same, a similar statement.
It almost contradict each other. Like one, it is saying pretty much the same thing, just in
Maybe,
different wording.
no?
No, sir, if I could speak, it does not contradict. One talks about termination when, one talks about a review.
No, I
and the-
didn't say
and the
it,
other-
I
oh,
didn't say it contradict
okay.
each other. I
All right.
say if it didn't, why would it be an
Right,
issue if it kind of complement or, well, yeah, that's basically what I was trying to say. I don't know if we can have him speak if he would like.
Right.
if
I
he
just
wanna
wanted,
get some
Commissioner Bowling
clarification.
wanted to know what those recommendations are, minus the third, fourth, fifth year. I want to make sure I covered those, so we mark them, so we can start, anew on all these items in agreement. I just want to make that clear. Those are those were the changes received.
It's really difficult for this commission, really, when we have a contract, unless it's already like pre-negotiated, and then we can sit down and finalize it, but you're almost asking that we sit here line by line, and any differences between what you originally had and what the contract is saying. Now, this commission have to decide yay or nay on it. It's just a little difficult doing that, especially when we haven't had it very long to really kind of go over it. I would like a contract where the city manager come back with recommendations and you all know worked out the agreement. And certainly we want to have the city attorney
And
make
that's
sure
where
it's
we
legal
were, that's where we
sufficient.
were this afternoon until these changes came in. That's where we were.
Okay.
So I agree with you. But if we want to have the vendor come up and as we go through these items and maybe get some more clarity, we're welcome to do that. But these are the items that were presented to the city this afternoon. So it's a pleasure of the commission.
I think so.
I mean, it's
And-
only fair.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Afternoon. Tell you a little bit about Big Dog. Right now, Big Dog has the contract with the city of Tampa to do the hauling of the trash for the city of Tampa. We don't have no bond with the city of Tampa. We've been hauling Tampa for a couple of years now. We also do a lot of cleanup for the FDEP, Department of Environmental for Tallahassee. We've done thousands of dollars worth of work for them. We did over $500,000 worth of work with them last year. No bond. Right now, we do all the trash hauling for Covanta, Miami, for the Doral area. We probably do over 100 truckloads a week. Just last week, we got a PO for the remainder of this year for $2.4 million. No bond, okay? We also do work for Polk County. We do all the recycling for Polk County. That includes Lakeland, Avondale, all that area there. We done work for the city of Fort Myers. So we've been around for a little bit doing this type of work. On the price that I gave to the city of Pahokee, originally was much higher than this. I just got this contract this afternoon, so I was not aware of this language that they use in this 4 or 5 paragraphs here. But with the money that I'm charging on a monthly basis for city of Pahokee, there's no room for me to have $1.5 million worth of bond. There's no way. I cannot afford it. Cannot do it at that price. I'm sorry. Let me go page by page, make it easy for this city. Okay, going back to
Page 4.
falling on the pricings. Price on year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Me and the mayor agree on the price. Year 6 and 7 will go up 2%. Okay, on page 9, title of all residential solid waste containers. The reason I say that right now those containers are owned, not the commercial containers. The commercial containers, Waste Management own and they want to keep. They either will sell or they will rent. But the residential containers that they have, they was going to pick them up, like the mayor said, that now they decided they're going to donate it to the city. They're going to leave them behind. If any of those containers, the previous 5 years contract, any of those containers go bad, it's my obligation to replace them with new ones. Most likely one of the containers could last 2 years before they get replaced, 3 years. So at the end of the 5 years, I'm going to have to replace all those containers as well. Those containers is a cost of approximately $100,000. That's what it costs to replace those containers. So again, at the price that I gave the city, there's no room there for those containers. Well, if you'd like to see, I got a proposal for the container, which is actually $93,165 to replace the containers. So I would like for at the end of the lease, of the contract, because those containers belong to me the same way Waste Management container belong to them now. The only difference is that they decided to give it to the city. I would like this to be up to me if I want to donate it to the city, or I want to pick them up and take them at the end of the contract, which is 7-year contract, 5-year contract. So that's the reason for that. That would allow those containers to be, they owned by me always. On page 8, paragraph 13A, it says that 1.37% increase. We already figured out the first 5 years, then year 6 and 7 will be 2%, not 1.3, or 3.7. So that's all the change that I'm asking the commission to do. Okay, now we go back to the performance bond.
Page 15, Mayor, Commission.
I'm sorry. Now we go back to performance bond, which is page 15. Again, I've done millions of dollars for the city of Tampa, Polk County, Miami, Doral, Fort Myers, and that have now FDP and the bonds have never been required. Yeah. We, again, it's all about the numbers.
Let me ask the city manager, the city attorney a question. Do our procurement obligation require us to require a performance bond on contract?
It depends on the type of contract. I can look and see if there's anything in particular for this one. I don't believe there's anything specifically addressing, and the manager may know off the top of his head, but I don't recall anything. I can look really quickly. One, and I mentioned, if I may, Mayor, earlier, that there may be other things that you
Right.
may look at,
Right.
which might be a letter of credit.
Right.
That could be, and I can't imagine the city of Tampa doesn't require anything. But if you, knowing their attorney, but if you all wanted to look at other possibilities that maybe they can show that the financial ability, because what the performance bonds are for is if you had to go out and get another hauler to do it, you would have something in place where you would be able to go back on that money and be able to still keep those services going with someone else. And so that's how it protects you. And then not only does this one require a performance bond, it's also another type of instrument as well. If we had a moment to talk offline, maybe, we can come up with some
Right.
ideas.
Yeah, it would be my recommendation that, along with the city attorney assistant or help, that the city manager go back and negotiate with Mr. Perez a contract that both the city and him can live with, and then bring it back. I know we're really pressed for time and want to get this contract done, but the way it's presented with additional changes being submitted to us today, it's just unfair for us even to try to make a decision up here. We rely on staff to at least bring forth a recommendation and some type of agreement that the city is comfortable with. And I think between the two of you all, we can get that done really shortly and quickly. That would just be my recommendation. I don't know how
Mr.
we
Mayor?
can.
I think if we're going to do anything like that, then we need to give them a time frame, like 2 or 3 days, and then we need to have a special meeting or a workshop where we can go over this contract, because I can tell you, I will blow a gasket if 2 weeks from now, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, on the day of the meeting, we get the final contract. I am not gonna put up with that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. It just seemed really about 4 items in there that really need negotiating. The majority of it is basically a contract that mirroring our previous contract, so.
How do we know that? We don't have a copy of our previous contract, do we?
We have heard from the city manager and the city attorney, basically letting us know.
He does have a
you
copy
know.
that he's passing down right now, Mr. Mayor.
But I
Would have
agree
been
with
nice to have
having,
it to lay down next to this one.
I agree with having a time frame that it can come back to us, and maybe we can possibly have a call meeting if it need to be voted and approved prior to the next commission meeting. I don't know if we under that tight a time frame to call for a special meeting.
We do have another meeting still right before
You have another meeting on the 28th, which is pretty much the last, what is it, 24th or 25th? And then thereafter, you have several more days before services cease with waste management. Waste management did indicate if you needed some additional weeks, if something happens of this caliber administratively, that they would, would continue. So I would have to let them know that if we don't make it by the end of the month, March 2nd.
Right, but what I'm saying is, look, I got this afternoon. I've got yellow, like, all over this contract. I have questions. I have a lot of questions about this contract, because I have never seen one of these contracts before, so you can bet I'm gonna have a lot of questions. And there's no way at the next meeting, unless I have the answers to these questions, that I'm gonna feel comfortable to vote. So we definitely need a workshop or a meeting between now and then, where we have the final, no more of this coming up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and saying we got some changes. But a final, this is it, we're looking at it, this is the deal.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I can suggest, if Commissioner Boland has a lot of changes, I would personally be interested in what those changes are, so that we can answer her questions.
I don't know if I have I don't know if I have changes, I have questions.
Or questions, whatever they are, we would be able to, we have the time now, this is the only thing on the agenda. I'd be interested in knowing what her questions are so that we can at least discuss them and alleviate any questions or concerns that she may have.
Yeah, but at the end, I'm not going to say that that's all the questions I have, because now you just gave us more changes. They just gave us more changes, so now I have more questions, and I need to go home and think about it. I am not a person who you
Can you-
hand a contract to and I make a decision that night.
Mr. Mayor,
This makes me so angry.
Mr. Mayor, is it possible to go through right now whatever concerns Commissioner Boland may have?
As much as possible, Commissioner Boland, if you have any now, I know you probably won't reach them all, but we can at least start the process. This is basically our only other item on the agenda mainly, other than the financial report.
I
So
have
if
a
you want to
question.
start at least answering, getting some of your concerns or questions
Right, she
answered.
has.
I have a question. I'm wondering if it's even possible if we were to just at least give 2 days to kind of compare, just go back through so that, she'll be comfortable just being able to compare and making sure that the verbiage is, although she still may have the questions, we still may have the questions, but if we were to just all come back in, everything's already put together and we make a decision right then and there and find a way to go ahead and get it done. But I can understand where she's coming from, because just to look at it, we can easily sit and say, okay, it's mirroring whatever, but she doesn't even, we don't even know clearly what this one or it's saying.
Should we go through it?
So-
Would that be helpful?
I mean, even we can, but I can only imagine it would be time consuming. But if we want to sit and go through it now, it will make us feel more comfortable with making that decision. I mean, I can see exactly. I don't think it's anything, that's that crazy. But just to be sure, we don't want to come back and it kind of bites us. With one little
I agree.
word.
I think
that
we
can-
should go
That
through
would
it,
just
if
put us
that's
in a
possible.
situation.
Well,
Now the thing is, so just say if we don't do this piece, what are we gonna do to, we need to ask the commission that part. How are we gonna come back and revisit this so that we can go ahead and expedite it for?
My recommendation would be to have the city manager, along with the city attorney input, negotiate those 4 items that was last add-ons, and come back with a contract that's mutual, acceptable
That we can
to
just
both
automatically go
parties.
ahead and say,
And at
okay,
our
we
next
agree.
commission meeting, we should be able to approve it. I'm not saying there's not gonna be totally any question, but those questions then can be answered prior to the vote. In between that time, whatever question that commissioners may have, they have an opportunity to address them with the city manager or the city attorney to try to get some clarification for them.
So since she
That would be
said
my
she's
recommendation.
willing to do some tonight, can we go over some tonight? Can we go through the contract tonight?
Well, wait, I have a question first before we even start this. And Mr. Perez, no offense, because
Yes.
I think you and Sarah are wonderful people,
Thank you.
but business is business.
That's correct.
Okay, so we have a lawsuit with Mr. Perez's company. How does it affect this
It does not affect this.
at all?
No, it
This
doesn't.
will not jeopardize our case in any way, shape, or form?
It does not. It's a completely separate issue.
Okay. All right.
Okay, it's a little in your court, Ms. Commissioner Boland. You have the majority of the questions probably, I'm not saying other commissions don't. Would you like to begin addressing some of them tonight, since we do have a little time? Or you prefer to kind of look over it further and then at the next meeting, address whatever additional concerns you may have?
Well, a couple of the questions that I have now that they've said what they want is that, are we gonna not have a performance bond? Because isn't that how we got in trouble with Techno Marine? If we'd have had a performance bond with Techno Marine, we would have been okay. So
See, those are the things I just want to make sure that we have in line. That's why I was saying, even to expedite it, and I keep saying that for a reason.
I mean, we need to
so
learn
that
from
we
our
can go
mistakes
ahead.
here.
That way, when we come back to the table, it's just, we would already know that we're gonna move forward with whatever we're doing, because we've been given, directives, where everybody's clear, it's clarity. I don't care if it takes us the next 2 days and everybody were to come, just say hypothetically speaking, on a Friday. I know that's probably not the case, but at least we can come back and we can say, okay, we already know this is what it is. It's just a matter of us coming back in and officially saying yes.
Going back to the city attorney statement earlier, we can find some ways in there that we will have some protection if this contract go awry. I don't know if Mr. Perez is not willing to pay any amount for performance bond, but even in addition, if it's lower than what we originally requested, we can have some other areas where we can have some protection. So that will be one of the areas that the city manager and city attorney would help negotiate, that we will be able to live with and agree on.
Well,
But can
Mayor,
we-
in the commission, in the workshop, I think the city manager stated that the contractor would agree to 30,000 for,
What I-
security bond.
Yeah, what I wanted to do, Mayor, was to provide with the city with a $20,000-$30,000 cashier check or a letter of credit. That's what I wanted to do. If I was to default, you could also always sue the company. We got quite a bit of assets. And besides that, you always gonna be paying me. By the time you pay me, you've been for 2 months. So by the time you pay me, you owe me $80,000 already. That's what you're gonna be owing me. If I was to default, you already got 2 months before I get my first check. So it's not like you just pay me up front like you did with the Marina.
With combinations like that, a security bond, although it's lower than what we normally have, and what he's stating, those are the types of negotiation we can work out and find some
Well,
medium ground.
I just want to be clear that that's not exactly how things would work. I mean,
Right.
there are certain ways that contracts are negotiated, are terminated. In this one, it does have certain things that you would do, some of the things that you didn't want necessarily to see in the agreement. There's certain notice provisions. It's not like you just stop performing and we don't pay you, and, because we don't want to be in a position where we have
Where we're in
liability
default.
either. So, there are, we have a limited number of things. He did mention letter of credit. Maybe that's something we can talk about, and give some recommendations on, perhaps. I'm not, that's not my recommendation. I'm just saying,
Right.
I know that
Right.
that is used sometimes. And so maybe if he can show what type of letters he's given in previous contracts that he says nothing is existing, maybe we can take a look at that.
No, I got assistant
do some
contract right now with the city
Okay.
of Tampa, Polk County,
Do some-
Miami, Covanta. Those assistant contract I got right now with no bond. The
Okay.
bottom line is.
Right,
is
but
the
I-
bottom line is all numbers. If
Right,
you-
but I'm sure you have something in place, is what I'm saying. And so if we could maybe get some information on that, verify that with the banking institution, that kind of thing, just to make sure something is in place. And I'm not, I'm not advocating one thing over the other, just saying, just to try to get the deal done, what kind of things the city might look at. And these, of course, are things that we will be bringing back for your consideration. So the manager may be recommending certain things. I don't know what those recommendations will be, but, and again, this would be for your consideration once we
But,
make a good faith
I
effort.
guess my question is, Mr. Perez he was in the audience 2 weeks ago. And asked you guys to draw up something, I guess, this resolution, this contract, whatever. And then you hand it to Mr. Perez today. He said he got it today
Yeah,
too,
got it today.
correct? So
Yeah, well,
I
what
don't
think-
understand how you think anything could have got worked out in that amount of time, because,
That's why I keep using the word
Yeah.
expedite, because
yeah,
I know.
Yeah, I
and
think-
expedite,
I
I mean, I
think-
want a time
yeah.
frame. I want to say
No.
Tuesday, it's going to be done. You're going to have it in front of us at 5 o'clock, and then we've
Yeah,
got,
what,
2
Well-
more weeks or another week to look at it or something?
I think everybody understood that it was going, even in that last meeting, we said it would be I suggested on the record that it be a contract that mirrors what you already have right now, because these contracts are complex. I said that, and the manager relayed that. Everybody heard that, so it's no,
But didn't anybody pick up the phone during that time and
I
talk
think
to
that was
Mr.
done.
Perez
Yeah.
and say, these are the things that we're looking for?
I think, so there was a baseline understanding that we would be operating on the same terms and conditions, pretty much as what you have in place right now, so that's no surprise.
But did you give
So,
Mr. Perez a copy of that contract to do that?
I'm not sure
You mean
whether
the
the
old
manager.
contract? He had
Yeah.
a copy of the
Okay,
old.
so that answers that
He
question.
had a copy of the old contract. That's what we worked off of. The contract that we worked through the weekend on was presented.
Well, why
Then
the
to-
weekend? I mean,
then-
2 weeks ago, we asked you guys to do this. Why did you wait till the last minute? That's what I'm
Commissioner-
saying. Here we are again with
Commissioner
Mr. Brevin,
Bowler,
the
we're not
last
waiting
Commissioner
till the
minute.
Bowler, you're
last
not harmed by anything. This is the same contract. So, the city is not harmed.
From day
Right.
one, I
And so
stated
when
that
we
I was-
brought this contract forward, when we wrote this contract, Mr. Perez then came back today and said that his firm, his entity could not operate under these particular conditions. So that happened this afternoon. Before that, we thought
understand
we
that,
had a
Mr.
contract in
Williamson.
place.
I'm not stupid.
So
I've
this
got
is-
that.
I didn't say it was.
Well, just to be productive, I'm wondering, Mr. Mayor, if it's possible for us to continue going through the contract. Like Commissioner Boland, do you have specific issues or
I have questions.
questions that we can answer?
Why is it a 5-year contract?
Because that's what the other contract was. It was a 5-year contract.
Okay, but we're doing something different, so why do we have to have a 5-year contract?
The idea was that it would mirror the other contract. And so it takes a lot of resources to put these things in place. And it's up to the city. It doesn't have to be, but it was mirroring, as everybody understood from the last meeting, the last contract. It's a 5-year contract. But the commission can change that.
Commissioner Boland, if I can speak as well, most haulers, most entities, and Mr. Perez can speak to this, they typically look for those contracts that are 4 and 5 years with extensions. They typically kind of shy away from 1 and 2 year contracts when it comes to solid waste hauling.
They're
trash, and
usually
recycling.
7 or 8 years. 7 to 8 years.
7
Actually,
to
5
8.
years is kind of low. South Bay, for example, they went with an 8-year contract.
Okay. So if right now we own the containers, is that correct? Or we don't?
West Management, you don't own it.
Waste
Management
management owns it.
owns it.
Do we have something in writing saying they're going to give them to us?
She said that in the last
She
commission
stated
meeting.
that
She
here.
made that
No,
statement.
that's not what I asked. I asked if there's something in writing that says Waste Management is going to give those containers to us.
I don't think we received that yet. We received their statement in the last commission meeting, and then she verified that thereafter to the city.
So then
but
that
she-
part should say that we're only going to give them to him if they give them to us?
I don't think you can write that.
I think, Ms. Bowling, the way the contract read is that I'm responsible for the containers. I'm responsible to replace the containers in the period of the contract, which is 5 years. For example, let's say West Management come here last month, or before the end of the contract, they can take 20 containers. I'll be responsible to replace those 20 containers. 2 years on the road, some resident call because the container got damaged. I'm supposed to buy them and replace them. So they are mine because I bought them, I replaced them. So what I want to do is, I don't want to buy those containers a year from now, 2 years from now, at the end at the end of this contract, I'm obligated to donate them to the city. That's the,
Right, I understand that, but
That's
my
it.
question is to the city manager or the city attorney, do we have something in writing from Waste Management that says they're going to give them to us? Because we can't give them to him unless we have something in writing saying they're going to give them to us.
No.
Because if they get mad next week and they decide to pull them all out of here, he's gonna be obligated to buy us all new containers, or we're gonna be obligated to buy all new containers. Which is it?
He's obligated to buy new containers.
It'd be me obligated to buy the contract.
And you're okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Okay. And paragraph, I guess it's 11.
Item 11, Commissioner Bowman. What page?
Item 11, yeah, I don't know, it's page 6, because mine all printed all catty-wampered this afternoon. So it says that the penalties may only be imposed by the city commission upon the recommendation of the city manager. Are those the penalties that we were talking about, the 1,000, 3,000 termination, those penalties? What penalties?
Yes, those would relate to that failure to comply with the provision, to a $100 per occurrence penalty. So you're talking about here, the $100 per occurrence penalty. The issue of penalties shall be discussed between the city manager and the contractor. Penalties may only be imposed by the city commission upon the recommendation of the city manager. So that makes it actually fair to the city, the contractor, so that you don't have a situation where the city manager is imposing penalties that the vendor may object to.
Right.
So that's language that you would want, in other
If we're referencing
words.
the $100 per occurrence penalty, shouldn't we also reference the other penalties that are built into that
They're on
other
page
page?
12.
Page 12?
Yeah, they're on page 12. Page 12 on the top.
I mean, that way everybody's clear what penalties we're talking about?
Right. Well, that particular penalty you're talking about on page 6 is about service delivery and guarantee. And
But isn't that what
it's a
the
little different.
penalties, if he doesn't do it, that's what we're gonna penalize him for on the other pages? I mean, I just glanced at it, but,
Failure to provide a report or documentation required under this agreement may result in a fine. So that's a fine of $100.
This, can I take a stab at explaining numbers, page 6 again? Item number 11 is when the contractor fails to provide information to the resident in terms of having a 48-hour notice. If they miss a pickup, they get a $100. What it says here is $100 per occurrence of that penalty. That's separate than, I think that's separate, city attorney, from
But the
the
city
quality of
attorney said
performance.
it referenced those
It does
others.
stand alone.
It's standalone.
But that's not what you just said. You said
Yeah.
it references the 1,000, 3,000.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
then-
it?
And then when I looked at the page, I see here, so it stands alone for paragraph 11 only. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'd like an answer that's the right answer the first time if I could get it, okay? Thank you. Yes. Paragraph 12, number 1, it says, to other dwelling units as deemed appropriate by the city manager. What does that mean?
Where you at, Commissioner Bowen? Tell me.
Number 12, the one that has the big 1,
Read it
on
again.
page 6.
Page 6? Okay, number 1. And what's your question?
What does that mean?
It means the contractor should provide residential curbside services to.
What other dwellings is the question? What other dwellings as deemed appropriate by the city manager? What does that mean?
If we find that someone has, let's say, one of these multi-rental units that's closed now, opens back up, or comes occupied again, we have to let the hauler know that services are required at that dwelling. Typically, I wouldn't know. That comes from code enforcement because they're on the street. They watch those things. And typically, it would come from building, planning, and zoning as well. When someone comes in, asks for a permit for occupation, et cetera, et cetera. And then the communication goes to code enforcement. The communication then goes to city manager or public works director. If there's a new unit or there's a new house coming online, then we'll let the contractor know. It says city manager, but typically it'll probably come from one of the building, planning, and zoning manager directly to the hauler.
And I don't know how you got that from that. Okay. Say it to me again so I can write it down, please.
Ma'am?
Could you please repeat that so I could write it down? Because I was reading it as you were saying it.
For dwelling units and frequency, if they're required to give these dwelling units a certain number of services a week. I think it's 2 times a week on both sides of town.
It says
That also
once a week.
includes multi-rental units or a new house coming online or a house or a dwelling unit going offline as well. It's our responsibility to let the contractor know that a service is required. It says city manager there, but typically that information would come from building, planning, and zoning under code enforcement because they monitor and see what's being open, what's closed, code enforcement, code violations, et cetera. Typically that information would come from that department, and then it goes up the chain to the city manager, and then we let the contractor know.
Okay, and Mr. Perez, you're supplying the recycling containers as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the yellow and the blue?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, he just said you're going to pick it up twice a week, but it says here you're going to pick it up once a week. Which is it?
Whatever the contract says, if it's
Okay,
once a week, once a
thank
week.
you.
Twice a week would be residential and
Right, that's what I meant.
yard waste and stuff like that.
This one, I'm not sure what page it is, because the page cut off. I think it's 9. It says, upon receipt of such written list by the city will verify the customer's address and the service to the unit is proper within 30 days, and if proper, shall remit monthly payments to the contractor for such service effective October 1st of the fiscal year, the date service began, whichever is later. The city has not received notification within 90 days by the contractor. No adjustments to payment will be made until the next fiscal annual roll is certified for the same units. City and contractor shall on a monthly basis jointly reconcile the number of accounts being serviced. Explain that to me, please. City attorney?
My understanding from speaking with the city manager, the way that this works, there is a separate rate sheet, and
Is that the cost sheet that's in the next
that's the
paragraph?
cost sheet that's mentioned in the next paragraph. So, Mr. Manager, you want to explain what you explained to me?
Sorry, I'm reading the paragraph. I'm going back to actually B, reconciliation of accounts, that the city is obligated to provide the contractor the number of units that will be serviced. And then if there are a number of units that are not online, I'm taking that there is an adjustment made to the payments for those units not being online. I'm going back to B. I had to read the entire section first. On before
Okay.
March 1st, 2020, and before commencement of work by the contractor under the terms of this agreement, the city shall provide to the contractor the estimated total number of units to be serviced. That's residential and commercial, which we've already done.
It's already happened.
Right. Thereafter, the contractor shall promptly notify the city of new residential units being served and/or deleted, and payments will be adjusted monthly for the following month. New dwelling units which are added, and we spoke of this earlier, new dwelling units which are added for service during a month will be added to the customer service list, and payment will be rendered the following month. Now, remember, they're not paying us, they're paying the county for services, not the city. So when a dwelling comes online, it registers with the county, and that's where they pay their water, sewer, and trash. Payment shall not be prorated. In the event the contractor provides service to the dwelling units whose parcel was not included on the annual assessment roll. The annual assessment roll comes from the county, provided to the city, because all of us pay our trash to the county, not the city anymore. The contractor must provide a written list of such dwelling units to the city within 90 days of receipt of assessment roll. Upon receipt of such written list by the city will verify the customer addresses. Basically, he has the right to also verify the units we've already provided him by March 1st. If there's a difference in what is actually the operating units for commercial and city, then there's an adjustment made. I think I explained that right.
What kind of adjustment?
It doesn't explain in this paragraph. If the city has not received notification within 90 days, no adjustment to the payment will be made until the next fiscal annual year.
How have you all
Certified for
treated
same.
it before?
We've never encountered that before, even though this is in the language in the previous contract. We've never encountered that before. This actual scenario here. I've never had to experience that in 5 years here with trash. We've never encountered it, so I've never had to deal with it. So I can't explain us an example because we haven't used it. We've had
City
homes come
attorney?
online during the fiscal year.
Yeah, I don't know
They're
how
added
they've
to the
encountered
county's
it. That's
assessment
what I
roll.
asked earlier today, and
Right.
this is what was explained, so.
Right.
The language
But
is
that
there.
didn't make sense, what he just explained. He said he doesn't know.
No, I'm
Well,
saying
he's
when a
saying
house
this is
comes
what-
online, they don't register with us. They register with the county because they have to pay the county. So they're
Right,
not
but
registering
I'm
with us.
asking you, what kind, it says adjustments from time to
I
time.
believe-
What kind
I
of
believe that-
adjustments?
That will be if Pahokee built 20 brand-new houses, that'll be putting new houses built to the city. So we use the same percentage that we get now, and that'll be adjusted.
And our bill would go
And
up.
That's right.
All right.
And then you got 20 people, yes,
So if we lose 20 houses, the bill's going to go down?
that's correct.
Who's going to keep track of that?
Well, again, the county provides us an assessment of all the residential and commercial homes. We get that assessment from the county. We know who's paying water, trash, recycling in the city of Pahokee. That's listed. So we know who those folks are. And when it comes offline, the county adjusts it because they're not paying us. The county, we get that information from the county. Again, when we were doing our services, we were doing it, but all residents here pay all of their services to the county. So the county has that assessment that is provided back to the city. So, I mean, do we look at it on an
So if we're
annual
lucky,
basis?
you're telling me if we're lucky enough to like get a big subdivision that comes in and wants to build 200-300 homes, all of a sudden this contract that we've signed for $40,000 a month is like null and void and it gets adjusted whether we like it or not, and we don't know how it gets adjusted, we just know it's gonna get adjusted?
What I'm saying is, if you get, let's say, 50 to 100 homes, you know, they're gonna be paying water, sewer, recycling, and those taxes will be going
You're
to.
still not answering my question. Is the price, he's saying the price is gonna go up. If we build a subdivision, the price that we're paying for trash hauling is gonna go up. Is that correct?
I would have to say, yes, it is, but he would have to come
But
back and
by
that would
how
have to be
much
negotiable.
and how do we know?
You wouldn't know how much it is, just based on the units, if you have 5 houses or 10 houses or 20 houses, you wouldn't know that. There's no way to, you know, suggest or even hypothesize if we're gonna have 200 homes.
So
and-
does it go up if 4 homes are, because we're getting ready to build, what, homes with Habitat? So
No,
they're
I
not
don't think 3
online,
homes
they're
are
gonna come
affect-
up.
3 homes are not gonna affect the rate.
But if
No.
they're gonna build 10 or 12 houses, he's saying that's like a
Well,
small
Use that as
subdivision.
an example. I mean, 10 houses, 5 houses,
not gonna
20
affect the
houses,
rate.
it's not gonna go
No.
up one way or the other. But they come here with 1,000 homes, 500 homes, you'll be adjusted at the same percentage rate that it is now.
Right.
Right now, you got roughly, I forgot what it was, 1,900, I think it was. I forgot what number it was, but anyways, whatever we have now, that same percentage will be adjusted to any big subdivision comes in. We're talking about a couple hundred homes. 1 new house down the street, 3 houses down the street, that's not gonna happen.
Doesn't
It's not
exist.
gonna go up. We're talking about big
So is
subdivision.
that how it's done in other cities, city attorney?
Well, it depends on the contract. I have not specifically, I don't recall this specifically, but I do know that the manager shared with me a rate sheet, and I guess that would be.
That would be
kind of
nice
the
to see.
That would be sort of a baseline, and that is driven by the county's numbers. So it's not a lot that the city controls because it gets reported. It's going to be public information no matter what, so it could be it would be verifiable. It's not something that you're just pulling out of a hat.
But if we get a subdivision, again, my point is, if we get a subdivision, this contract is basically null and void and the price goes up. Yes? No?
I wouldn't say it's null and void, no. You have a contract.
Right.
and
Well, what's
and
the breaking point? I mean, 5 houses, 10 houses, 100 houses? Where does this kick in?
Well, I think it's like we said earlier, you know, if you're talking, 500 homes or something like that being built.
Yeah, but I'm not,
there's
in a contract, you
significant
can't
change.
go something like that. You gotta have a number. That's what I'm asking.
But
What's
you
the
can't,
number?
you can't project what number of houses are gonna come to Pahokee. You can't put that in there, you don't know.
But you can say if it's less than this amount, this is not gonna be a factor. And if it goes over this is gonna be a factor. Can't you?
Is there any way we can just contact solid waste and just give them a type of scenario and just ask them in situations as such, how would they have handled this, just by their contract and just see?
You mean the county solid waste?
I mean, well, whoever we have this contract with, is it in a way we can just, we can just contact them and just see, that way, even if hypothetically speaking, or what would happen or what has happened in previous situations.
Well, what the manager is saying is it's never been utilized.
Right.
But this, I guess what we would need to do, and maybe a little bit more relevant, is to have more discussions with the contractor about
Right.
under what circumstances the contractor would see this.
Because we want the city to grow.
Right, I understand it's being that it's mirroring
But this kind of penalizes
this.
us for growing.
Right, but I mean, being that it's mirroring this, the contracts are mirroring each other, just see what would they, how would they answer
It
it.
don't necessarily penalize us. What it does is provide the contractor with some additional compensation for the added load that they're gonna be experiencing if a new development come in.
Right, but we're gonna have to come up with the money.
No, what I'm saying, it's not
in
so
our
much
budget.
penalizing us, though. It's just being fair both ways. And he indicated that he looking at a figure of maybe 100 houses plus. That means a new development have came. We're trying to grow. We're looking at properties that we can develop a complex or something like that. So if that development occurred and it's about 100 houses or more, then he would have adequate compensation for that additional work that he would have to do.
Right, and I understand that, but I was elected to protect the money of the people of this city, not to make Mr. Perez's life better.
Yeah, in this case, the
sorry.
tax base will
Yeah.
have increased. You'll be getting additional revenue sources in your budget. So what this does is allows for some additional compensation. It's not anything that's
Yeah,
taking
but
anything away from the
what
city. The
compensation?
city-
I have
the city-
no numbers here.
Obviously,
And
at
it's
this
based on
point,
the
we
cost
don't
sheet
know
from the
then.
county.
And if we had the cost sheet, again, that would have been easier.
So this is something that we can certainly talk about.
Right.
Okay, down in D of that same sheet, on that same page, it
What page
says,
was that, sorry?
yes, I believe it's 9. Yes, sir. Okay, it says, "The city reserves the right to correct errors of omissions or commission upon determination of any underpayment or overpayment. The city manager will verify the error and make appropriate adjustment to the contractor's payment to correct the error." Where does it say he's going to come and talk to us about it before he does it?
Do you want to be involved in that level of detail?
Yeah.
Mr. Senator, what I don't understand, is this the same thing that our former attorney had written?
Well, I don't know.
I know some changes that we have tonight, we have some changes. But what I don't understand is we going through the same thing that we've been living with for the past 7-10 years that he written. This is biblical what he written. So, please, this is the bill, so the changes that was made is being made, right? They're stating the changes of the changes.
There are very
So,
few changes.
My thing is,
Vice
why
Mayor.
don't we deal with the changes We've been dealing with this anyway. We've been living with it.
Yep.
So let's deal with the changes of what's in the contract and let's move on.
No.
Cause keep going through this here. This is ridiculous
But that's,
to me.
that's why I said
Hasn't
made
been
a
good
comment.
that we
You know,
actually read the contract.
it was no problem, excuse me, sir. There was no problem when Mr. Brandenburg sat there and gave this contract. He writ this contract to betterment for the city of Pahokee. This is the contract. So my thing is, let's deal with the changes that have come back. We have a new vendor that's contract, and he's putting in how he will work with this contract. Let's deal with that part. But this old stuff, it's getting out of hand now. It's getting out of hand.
And I
This is
truly
the same
think,
contract
Vice
that
Mayor,
we
that
worked
I have a
with.
right, I have never seen one of these contracts before, and I have a right to have my questions
We'll be here all
answered
day tonight, to the
before
next meeting,
we
and the
get
next meeting.
where I have to vote. And that's too bad.
What we're doing now is based on the city attorney recommendation that we allow some of these. Come on, Sam. Yep, you're interrupting the meeting.
Y'all have a good night.
I think we've taken a stab at trying to get some of these questions answered. We're not gonna get them all answered, certainly not tonight. My recommendation again would be what it was previously was that we allow the city manager and the city attorney with her assistant work with Mr. Perez to have an agreement that is mutual agreeable for both parties. In those areas where there is a difference, then the city commission can step in and make the final decision there. But we should be presented by next meeting a contract that we're ready to sign and agree on.
But I'm not going to be ready to sign unless I get my questions
I
answered.
say in the interim, Commissioner Bowling, you can ask questions of the city manager, the city attorney, even the contract if you choose. I don't know if that's appropriate or
I don't
not.
think that's appropriate.
Right, but staff, you certainly can get as many of your questions answered as possible. I think this process is, we attempted it, and we are getting some progress, but I don't want to continue with something that's gonna be entirely dedicated to one area when we have.
But a while ago, you said that I had plenty of time to ask my questions, and now I'm asking them, and now y'all want to shut me down and not have me ask my questions. I don't think that's right. I don't see what the problem is with asking questions. And asking them in public, so the public can hear the answers.
I just find it really unusual for a commissioner to go down line by line every
To
single
read a contract
thing
and ask
that
questions.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you can't get questions asked or answered, but for it to be in a public setting, just every line by line, that's why we have a city attorney and staff to do those things, to go over contract, and then those things that you don't agree with, you have an
These are the things I don't
opportunity
agree with
to-
because I don't understand them. That's why I'm asking the questions.
But there's always a means to get questions answered other than in a commission meeting, doing it.
Well, I'm
Mayor-
sorry, I didn't get it till 3 o'clock this afternoon, and y'all are saying we need to get this done, so I'm
Yeah,
trying to
we
get where I
got
can
30
get it
more
done.
minutes. I mean, we can keep going if you got questions, we can keep going.
Okay.
All right.
Mayor, may I say something? I mean, what Marvin was saying, this is pretty much the same contract you guys had before. There's only 4 or 5 clauses in there that want to change. Why don't you just roll that and say, tell me yes or tell me no, or if it's yes, I get ready. If it's no, no big deal.
See, this
But-
was,
but,
this,
We've been talking with this city manager now for 2 months.
Right.
And I don't feel like keep on going back and forth.
That's-
There's only probably more issues,
that
so
was the-
let's
that was the
boil
biggest
that.
thing. Right.
Yes, yes, and no, no, and that's it.
that was the
That's
biggest
it.
thing I was
Because
discussing. If it's
this contract
mirroring
was
what
supposed to
we've
start March
already,
the 1st.
we've
Okay.
already.
Let's
did an agreement.
let us do this. The changes, especially those that we received today, let's go over those one by one, and I agree with Mr. Perez, we can say yea or nay on them, or try to make some adjustment, or to move on. And let's take the first one that you're requesting.
I think it was, are you starting over again?
We just for the change, those
Just the
four major
changes.
That's what I'm
changes.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
let's
We starting
address
over
those.
We're just gonna talk about the changes.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Page 5, we go back to the residential solid waste collection, the containers. Right now, the containers are owned by Waste Management. What you say in this paragraph up here is that the containers are mine right now. Once I take over, I'm gonna replace them and put new ones or whatever I do. At the end of the contract, the city wants the container to be them, but in the period of the contract, they're mine. But once the contract finishes, the city wants me to apply to them. I would like that to be removed. The container will be mine all through the contract and after the contract. If at the end of 5 years, 7 years, somebody else decides to come back, West Management, whatever, I'll deal with them, or they'll have to buy the new containers.
I don't know if we need a motion specifically for that, but that change, do any commission have an objection to that? Allowing Mr. Perez to own them after the end of the 5 years, when he's almost gonna be replacing them anyway in 5 years. So basically, here's an anyway, so I think that's reasonable.
And just, Mr. Mayor, just very quickly, Mr. Perez, this would not include the commercial containers. This is
No, the
just
container-
residential only, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
The commercial containers, West Management will
Right.
sell them or lease them to me. Actually, but I got some in Miami I could bring
Okay.
over if I have to.
Okay.
I think that's a consensus. Second change that you request.
Okay, second change. Second change will be on page 8, 13A. It says that after the year 2020, it'll be a 1.37% increase. We already agreed,
What page was that?
page 8, paragraph 13A.
Page 8.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, third.
We'll agree on year 3, 4, and 5. So year 5 and 6, instead of 1.37, will be 2%.
And that's year 3, 4, and 5?
3, 4, and 5, we already agree on the price. It's, year 3, it'll be total 498, year 5 will be 504, and year 5 will be 507, 600. And then year 6 or 7, that Ms. Waller was questioning earlier, it'd be a 2% increase.
Yeah.
So
That is if the contract is extended for additional 2
2
years,
years,
right?
that's correct.
Okay. City manager, do you have any objection to that?
Well, I don't have any objections to it. Moving into the next budget year, we'll have this conversation in July. You know, what's amendable for us. We're gonna make some budgetary moves to accommodate this contract, because it is about $39,000 more than what we're paying now. So we'll make some changes there. I don't have any objection to the third, fourth, and fifth year. We're locked in for the first 2 years, so we're comfortable for the next 24 months with Big Dog. So we should be fine with the next 3 and 4 and fifth years.
Yeah, but he's addressing now 6 and 7, saying that in the event that we'll extend this contract for 2 years, he will receive a 2% increase in each of those years, I believe.
That's right.
Yeah.
2% from the 5th year?
On 6 years, 6 and 7.
Yeah,
Okay, right, 6 and 7.
okay.
6 and 7. Year 6 and year 7. Yeah, that's correct.
One extension.
And up here on page 8, you got 1.37.
Right.
2%?
From 1.37 to 2%, those 6 and 7 years. That's,
No, sir. 1%.
But you got 1.37, page 8. How you gonna go backwards?
Yeah, that was before you recommended all these changes. So, 2%, that's, you know, we don't know where we're gonna be in 6 years, but,
Well, that's the reason that year 1, year 2, I went pretty much by the budget the city had, because my original price was $14,000 higher than that.
Yeah.
But since I talked to the city
For-
manager, tell me that was your budget, I came down to that much. But
I mean, I can try to meet you halfway on that.
Okay,
Yeah, 6 and
what he's
7.
saying, you currently in this contract had 1.7. I don't know if that.
1.37, yeah.
1.37.
That was
1
before all the changes later today. So that 1.37 actually has changed. The percentage has actually changed based on what we had recommended in the first contract. So even though that's changed, that 6 and 7, that's an extension. It has nothing to do with the first 5 years.
Right,
So
but
you're
then-
asking
but
2%
we gotta
more for
put it
those
here.
next 2 years, 6 and 7.
Okay.
I'm saying meet me halfway.
Let me get some
That's what I'm
clarification.
saying.
Year 6, you asked for 2%.
that's correct.
Then year 7, you asked for an additional 2% on
Yeah,
top of
that's
that?
4%. No,
So it'd be, what,
I
4%?
think that's too much.
Another 2% each year.
This year.
Right.
So
2%
Is,
each year.
is, for contract, these large contracts like that, to have an annual increase of 2%, I mean, I hadn't really looked at a lot of contracts, but that don't seem unreasonable to me.
The
for a
contract have prior to
2%
this when they
increase.
had it.
It may be, but I'm just saying, I just don't see that as being unreasonable.
it's basically doubling though, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the old contract, Exhibit A on the old contract, that's not 2%, 6 and 7.
Uh-huh.
I'm meeting halfway. But that's not 2%, 6 and 7 on Exhibit A on the old contract. It's not 2%.
Mr. Perret, whatever we can't agree on, that's when we'll go into some type of negotiation. If we could agree on all 4 of these changes, then we can actually disapprove or approve this contract tonight. That's what our objective was.
No,
Okay.
no.
Is there any way we can go halfway on that 2%?
Which
Mr.
one,
Perez?
1%, 1.5%?
Yes.
1.5. Okay, we'll go 1.5.
Okay. Let's look at the third requested change.
Go ahead, Mr. Perez.
Okay, let's go, let's leave the, let's go to, page 16, the insurance.
What page, Mr. Perez?
16.
Thank you.
Let me pass to the commission and my insurance that we got right now in place.
And this, you currently have 2 million, right?
No, we got more, we got about 4 or 5 million. Only got one.
That's okay.
Give it to the clerk, but I'll give it to her after
Okay.
I look at it.
Okay, when the city originally threw out this contract, the city was requesting $300,000 liability insurance. That's what came out on the proposal originally, $300,000, that's what the city wanted. $300,000. And they wanted $500,000 umbrella. That's the original contract came out for a price from the city of Pahokee.
On the RFP?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you guys came out with $300,000 liability and $500,000 umbrella. That's what came out on our page. I got it right here, if somebody wants to borrow. That's what came out, okay? When I talked to the city manager, I gave him a copy of the contract I got now. I have way more than that. I have a 1 million each occurring. I got 1 million personal. I got 2 million aggregate. I got 2 million combined. I got 1 million, I got 3 million on work compensation, which you guys was asking for 100. So I have plenty more insurance than you guys was required originally. Now, when I get this contract today, you guys are asking for 1 million plus a $5 million umbrella. So what I'm asking is for the city to accept the insurance that I have now. This insurance, same insurance I got with City of Tampa, Polk County, City of Fort Myers, Miami, FDP.
Mr. Perez, what's your umbrella right now?
Well, 2 millions.
Okay.
You said accept the $1 million and the 2 million umbrella.
But right now I got 1 million issue occurrence. Plus I got another 1 million personal injury. I got 2 million general aggregate. I got another 2 million simple limit combined.
So are you
Add them
asking,
all together, we got total $6 million.
so are you asking us to accept your current
asking us-
coverages that you have?
Coverage that I have right now.
Okay.
But this is way, way, way more than the
What the
original
RFP
RFP that
was.
came out. The
Okay.
original RFP came out was only $300,000 and $500,000.
I
Okay.
concur, I could agree with your coverage, you know, can't speak for everybody, but I can see concurrence in that.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Then the next one, which is the last one, is page 15, the performance bond. I know the city needs to protect itself, and they always have to be wondering if the vendor is going to comply with the contract. We've been doing the hauling from Miami now for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. And from the city of Miami, in one day, oh, sorry, 15, 27, page 15, paragraph 27. From the city of Miami right now, the amount of haul that we do from Miami in one day is probably more than we're going to consume in Pahokee in 1 month. We do 20 loads and sometimes even 30 and 35 loads from Miami on a daily basis with 100 yards trailers. Those containers that go around the city of Pahokee picking up the trash, those are 30 and 40 yards. We use 100 yards in Miami to transport trash, and we do 20 or 30 a day. And we take it to the Okeechobee landfill. Okeechobee landfill is closed on Sunday. They open on Sunday only for us, for Vanta. They've been open now for about 2 years just for us to go in there on Sunday with the trash or garbage from Miami. So that's just so, and with them, I ain't got no performance bond. I don't have performance bond, and like I said, what we do in Miami one day is probably more than we're going to be doing in Pahokee for the whole month, and that's what we do. So what I'm asking the commission is, if I have to supply the city of Pahokee with a $1.5 to $2 million performance bond, there's no way I could do it for the price I gave you. No way. I could do a price. And offering to the city of Pahokee is, like I said earlier, by the time I get my first check, the city of Pahokee already going to have 2 checks in the hole. Plus, I'm going to give you, or I'd like to give you, a letter of credit of $20,000, or a cashier check for $20,000 for the city to haul. One of the two.
Didn't you say 30 while ago?
No, I said 20 or 30. And that's what I'd like to offer to the city. Those are my 6 changes that I would like to make on the contract.
Okay, we're on the last one
That's
that may
it.
be the most stickler. City attorney will pay $30,000, and city manager too. City, $30,000 performance bond and a letter of credit. Would that satisfy and adequately protect us to a certain degree?
That would not be my recommendation, but, you know, I understand the issues that the city faces and trying to get a hauler, and I leave that to you all. That would not be my recommendation.
Okay. Let me go back. Originally, the city was asking for 100,000, a million, I meant, I'm sorry.
No,
That's
that was
insurance.
insurance.
Okay.
This is
That was
performance
insurance.
bond.
Right, what are we asking for performance bond in this particular contract
Half
now?
the contract.
Right, half
At
of the
least
value
equal
of
to
the contract.
1/2 of the contract,
Contract's at like 2.5, so it's 1.25,
at least equal to
2.5?
1/2 of the contract, at least equal to 1/2.
right?
Right.
Give or take,
$1 million,
ballpark.
whatever, yeah.
Okay,
Why 30,000 when, can you,
Well, because that's based, again, on everything's numbered, on the price that I provide to the city.
does the bond company multiply that yearly?
Well, no.
That's why it's,
No, not yearly. The bond company get the amount of the year of the contract, the whole 5 years, 7 years, whatever it is, and multiply the whole total for the whole period of the contract, and that's how they come to the number.
okay, the contract is over $1 million. I'm just using this as a negotiation starting point. Will you be able to comfortably put up 100,000. That's less than 10% of the contract.
This is what it is. Performance bond, actually, I talked to the city mayor about this. So we were discussing originally $50,000 bond. And I'll send an email to the bonds company requesting what would be the price on a $50,000 performance bond, because originally that's what we discussed, $50,000. And I showed them, the city manager, the email. They emailed me back saying that they will not do a $50,000 bond based on the contract. The contract's for $2 million. Even though they're only gonna be liable to pay $50,000, they will charge me for the whole $2 million or $3 million, whatever the total contract might be. So it's, I cannot get a bond just for 50 or 100. I have to get it, if I have to get a bond, I have to get it for the actual amount of the contract. That's the way the bonds company work.
So what if we ask for the 30,000 that you're offering and compound that by 5 years? That's $150,000.
Excuse me?
You were willing to pay us $30,000, right?
I said $20,000, yeah.
Okay, what if we ask for that compounded for 5 years of the contract? That's $150,000. Because the bond company is doing the same thing at upwards to a couple of $1 million, right?
Yeah, but it's not the same thing. You asked me to pay you $20,000, $30,000 every year.
I'm just trying to see what pleases the commission.
No, it's just that in reality, go back and do the number for a minute. I'm charging you for 5 years, roughly gonna be $2.5 million, roughly. That's what it's gonna be in 5 years, $2.5 million.
469.
Right now, I'm saving you $1 million. So only if I was to do this, think about the worst. Think I'm gonna forfeit this. If you're able to get me to do this for 2 years, you guys come in ahead. I'm saving you guys $2 million. I'm saving you guys $2 million. City of South Bay is paying $424,000. $424,000, City of South Bay, which is half of Pahokee size. That's what they're paying. If based on the population of Pahokee, based on Pahokee's number, you got probably, I haven't done the math, but just off my bed, you probably a $700,000-$800,000 contract. So, the reason I was able to do this, first of all, was because the city manager told me that that's all the money the city of Pahokee had. And really, in a way, I want to help city of Pahokee because that's all the budget the city of Pahokee has. But if you can see, I got plenty of contract, much bigger than this one, with no bond. And like I said, and I show you, I'll be willing to show it to city manager. Just a couple of days ago, we got a PO from Miami for $2.some million for this year, for May of this year, with no bond. So what I'm asking the commission is, if I was to default, which that's the reason bonds for. Bonds is in case you default, they got some place to collect. That's all the bond is.
Mayor, Commissioner, those other entities, they said no bond, but did they have other things in place to protect themselves?
The letter of credit, you said the letter of credit earlier.
No, I said I'll provide a letter of credit. Not them, I don't have no letter of credit with them. No, I said I'll provide a letter of credit. No, I don't have no credit with them. All they got from me is a financial statement, and I've been around for a while.
So these other entities left
And the thing
themselves.
is, if I was to default on this, you guys could always go against Big Dog.
So these other entities don't have protection if
No.
you fail at performance?
No, they don't. They don't.
Yes.
They don't.
But you're not their main waste hauler, right?
Yes, I am.
Are you doing like debris removal or something like that?
I'm the only hauler from Miami, from Doral to Okeechobee. And like I said, we do 20 or 30 truckloads, 100 yards every day. Every day. You see all the trucks going down 441, going to Okeechobee. Now, Okeechobee has never opened on Sundays. They started opening Sundays, I think it was last year or the year before, just for us to bring the stuff from Miami. They only open Sunday from 6 or 7 in the morning to 12 o'clock, just to get the trucks out of there. Because the Doral was complaining about the smell. So they want the trash out of it. They don't want to keep the trash in Dorado no more.
So, can I ask a question, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Perez? You're going to do the garbage pickup twice a week,
Yes, ma'am.
the recycling, and then the bulk pickup too?
Yes, ma'am, the whole thing. Same
Okay,
thing
how
with
often
Mercer.
is the bulk pickup going to go?
Well, right now, it's based on the thing, it's once a week. Once
The
a week.
whole city once a week?
That's the way it is right now. That's the way the contract reach, and that's the way West
Yes.
is doing now. That's the way SWS was doing it before. It's
Yes.
only been once a week. What I
we-
told the city manager was that since we're gonna be located in Pahokee, I'm gonna have a supervisor, and we might be able to do it, you know, if we see Main Street with the power,
Sure.
y'all was here from there,
Yeah.
we just go pick it up and grab it. But actual spread contract is once a week.
Let's see if we can live with this. I know the city attorney kind of maybe a little hesitant, at least to advise us of this or agree to it or recommend it anyway. He's willing to do a performance bond between 20 and 30. If we ask for 30,000
With a line of credit.
and a line of credit, I believe the commission can, I'm just guessing now, I'm just thinking out loud, could live with that. At least I could. We're talking about a contract that's gonna save the city between $1 and $2 million. And I ain't even asking about the additional employees that he may have to hire to carry out this contract, which would be local folks that live in this area, that live in this community. So I think we can compromise on that, especially in the fact that he has similar contracts that don't have performance bond, or that we can verify that too. I'm just trying to get us to the point where we're getting close to at least coming up with agreement, because we're gonna have to have this service provided by Mr. Perez or somebody out there, you know.
So are we saying that we're just automatically agreeing to these numbers that he gave us at 4 o'clock?
I think
'Cause
earlier.
we haven't even discussed those.
Yeah, we went over the numbers and we.
No,
Third,
they
fourth,
just
and
gave
fifth?
them to us, and I wrote them down. I mean, we haven't discussed whether or not,
The third, fourth, and fifth year you're talking about?
yeah.
Oh.
All you did was give them to us. We didn't have any discussion on it.
I mean, I thought that's what the mayor just asked me about. Was the city acceptable of those 3 years? But it's up to the commission if they want to discuss it some more. Third, fourth, and fifth year.
Well, I guess my question would be, did we come up with these numbers, or were these his numbers, and then he came back with some different numbers, which is what you implied at the beginning?
No. What
Or these
Mr.
are the
Perez-
numbers we gave him, and then he came back and said, these are the numbers I
Mr.
want?
Perez is correct. When he first bid it, he was much higher than this. He was actually about 53,000.
I'm not asking that.
When I first gave the numbers to the city, they were much higher than that. The mayor was saying that it was.
Okay, so where did we come up with these numbers?
It was,
Those are
that's
numbers that the budget-
that's how we negotiated back down from that higher amount down to this amount.
Right.
It was $53,000 a month.
Okay, and then you agreed to it, and then you came back this afternoon and said no?
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 No, I didn't say
And
that.
now I'm really
No, no.
confused, because that's
Okay.
what they said.
My original numbers.
I thought
which-
that's what they
Which I
said.
believe you have, I got a package, I made 6 copies, so I think you had a copy of it.
Nope.
Okay, well, my original
It's in the
number was
packet.
53,000. Okay, I met with the city manager a couple of days ago, last week, and he told me there's no way the city could afford this $53,000, which I thought was a really good number, because you're already saving $200,000-300,000 a year. And the city manager came to me and said, no, we cannot afford that. Our budget is $40,000. Actually, no, he told me our budget was $37,000. I said, no way I could do for $37,000. So we went back and forth, and I agreed on doing it for $40,000 just to help the city out the first 2 years, with a 10% increase the third year, fourth year, and fifth year, 5%. That was what we discussed with city manager. Because I thought, well, given the first 2 years, I should discount rate, and I tried to make some money at the end of the year. Then they came back today with a contract and said that, that it was for third year, was gonna be $40,000 well, so I cannot live with that $40,000 for the third year. So we pretty much discussed, and we went to 41.5 for the third year, 42 in the fourth year, and 42 on the third year, on the fifth year, I'm sorry. My original number was much higher, about $13,000 higher. Right.
So y'all sit down this afternoon and discuss these numbers, is that correct?
No, he brought back changes for different than what was in the contract. And so we went back and forth on what I thought we could be amendable to for his changes. And I knew it was already different than what we had already presented here. So there was not much we can do between the timeline he presented it and walking in the meeting this evening, because these changes came later in the day. I actually thought we were comfortable where we were, but obviously we were not. So we made some additional concessions and, made some changes. Not made some changes, but he said we would bring those changes that he recommended to the commission. Sorry.
So how are you proposing that we're going to come up with this money in the third, fourth, and fifth year?
What do you mean?
Well, our budget has been our budget for the same amount of money for, 5 years that we had waste management?
Right.
So, and the budget always balances up. It's not like we have
Will we-
$50,000 or $100,000 hanging out.
Right. We'll be making some changes at the next budget year.
Such as?
I don't know that yet until we get to budget conference and finance tells me where we can make those changes. We're expecting to make some cuts, not cuts, but some changes to accommodate the next 3 to 4 years after the first year. So I can't speak for that off the top of my head tonight.
But aren't we going to have to come up with our budget that we did this year? What's our budget that we did this year? What did it say per month we were going to spend on garbage?
For the year, it's about 400 and I think 55,000.
400 and what?
55,000.
Okay,
Don't
so
quote me on
that's
Yeah.
like an additional $25,000, $30,000 that we're still going to have to come up with this year.
Right. So
But our
finance is
budget
working on
balanced
that.
up, so we're going to have to go back and adjust the budget to make up for the 480 now.
Yes, finance is working on that. We're not overly concerned about finding 25,000 more additional dollars. If it was $100,000, we'd have a major concern, but we're not overly concerned. But finance is going to come back and we'll make a recommendation for interdepartmental.
Right, but the
budget
only,
change.
the only way our money is going to go up is ad valorem taxes, correct?
Right, unless
Which we
unless
have
we
to build
save
more
money in other
houses
contracts.
to get ad
That's
valorem
right.
taxes, which takes us right back to the place we were before. If we get more houses, bill's going to go up.
Right, but as the city attorney said, as you get more houses, you get more property taxes as well, so that offsets what you're paying back out. So just keep that in mind as well.
Let's,
Mayor, if I can say, this still actually cheaper than what this,
oh yeah,
waste
it's a lot.
management
We're not
was,
gonna, not
offering.
only that, I don't think we're gonna find
You
a
can find
vendor
it cheaper
that's
than,
gonna
than this.
perform less than
No.
what he's offering.
No, you're not.
So I know we have to negotiate and try to get the best deal we possibly can, and that's, that's our obligation, but we're at a point where we got to have a provider, and I don't see where we can do it any cheaper than what we're
You're
doing.
not.
So are you trying to say that we should vote on this thing tonight?
I say we're pretty close we look at
Because
the
to me,
major.
that would be insane.
That's-
I mean,
that's-
that truly would be
everybody-
insane
what
to
I'm saying?
vote on
Everybody's entitled
something.
to their opinion. I'm not saying, and I'm not trying to rush a contract down.
Yes, you
anybody.
are.
No, I'm not. That's just my opinion. If the majority say that we done worked out the major differences and want to move forward this contract, then the majority decide that, not the mayor, not one individual. You may not agree with it, and that's your right not to
But
agree
you
with
said
it.
I would have time to ask these questions, and now you're saying, now we need to vote on it, so I'm not going to get to ask my questions, correct?
If the majority feel that we done worked out the agreement that we are comfortable with, we moving forward. If not, then you may have some additional time to ask some additional questions you want to ask.
But you could just set a workshop so that I could ask my questions, we could get them out of the way, then we could vote on it at a special meeting right after that.
Okay.
And then I would feel very happy.
I entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we have a workshop on this contract and that we have a special meeting afterwards to vote on it.
Motion died for lack of a second.
Of course.
Are there any other motion that commission want to put forward?
Yes, Mayor, I make a motion that we accept this contract as is with the changes that we have discussed it tonight. Since we are still dealing with the same contract as we were dealing with previously, without the changes. So I make a motion that if the commission agrees to the contract with the changes that Ms. Perez and the city attorney and the city mayor have made, that we should accept this contract. We have until
When you-
March 1st, which is not long.
When you say with the changes, are we talking about the four?
When he said that
We haven't
six
figured out the
changes that you
changes.
mentioned. which
How
is-
can you make it with the changes? We haven't figured the changes out.
Wait a minute, with the changes that, they have made with the 1.5 of the 2-year extension, if there be an extension. Also, I guess we have made or we should approve the payment out for the 1st through the 5th year, and also the security bond. So Mayor, if you might, maybe you could do each one of those line by line, see, we make a motion of those, so we agree to those.
I think we need to do those
Each one
line
of
by
those.
line, those four.
Let's take those 4 items, line by line, and
Wait.
see if we can get a consensus on it.
Wait, are we really, we're talking about the security bond? Did we come up with a number? Did
That's
we
what I'm
figure
saying.
out
He's gonna
how?
go line by line, see, is that what that was the 20,000 with
But
the
you're making a
security-
motion to accept the contract.
No, I just said, Commissioner Bowe, he's gonna do line by line of each one of the
Indicating
changes.
it's 9 o'clock.
It's 9 o'clock.
Okay,
We can't do this.
we will adjourn this meeting and continue any item that wasn't completed at our next regular scheduled
Even when the
meeting.
motion was on the
Mayor,
floor?
Yeah, there was a motion on.
Yeah, that's true too,
go
but
ahead. I don't know the rules.
the motion still is not gonna, we can table even that motion because it's still not gonna carry us through. It only is to discuss line by line, the 4 changes or the 5 changes, whatever number it was, and we'll be here for another 15 minutes or so. So the time has expired, so I would adjourn the meeting. I need to ask you, City Attorney, as a attorney just for guidance, we do have a motion, I had a motion on the floor to discuss this line by line. We have an ordinance that really dictate the time we have for meeting, which is in at 9. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, sure. Sir, your rules do state that whatever items are remaining will go on the next agenda. And what we'll do, along with the city manager and myself, we will bring the items that you've discussed and seem to be consensus on in the form that you discussed them, and we'll fold them into a contract that will have those changes in them for your next commission agenda. And we'll be working together with the contractor to address some of the issues that Commissioner Boland brought up.
Mayor, before we leave official business, on March 10th, you folks will be traveling, so you need to make a motion for that meeting. Unless you wait until next meeting.
We need to make a motion to travel?
No, travel, you won't be here for that meeting.
Oh, okay.
You can wait till the
okay.
next meeting
I
to do that,
got
though.
you,
It's not a
right.
problem.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So
Yeah.
you don't have it.
Okay.
You can wait till the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.